Horror movies have a simple rule: curiosity kills, sometimes literally. In these stories, survival isn't just about facing monsters, killers, or supernatural forces. It's about the choices people make under pressure. From impulsive curiosity to fatal hesitation, from ignoring clear danger to trusting the wrong person. Every decision carries consequences. Tonight, we'll explore 10 chilling tales where one wrong move turns ordinary people into victims. Some mistakes are small, some are deadly, but all remind us of one terrifying truth. In horror, even a single lapse in judgment can be the last mistake you ever make.
Anyone who has ever watched a horror movie knows one thing: the characters always make terrible decisions. And if they didn't, we probably wouldn't have a movie. In Jeepers Creepers, one of the most frustrating decisions comes from Darry Jenner. After being aggressively chased down a deserted highway by a terrifying truck driver, Darry and his sister Trish witness something deeply disturbing. They see the driver dumping what appears to be a body wrapped in bloody sheets down a large drainage pipe near an abandoned church. To make matters worse, the creeper clearly notices them watching. Moments later, the truck barrels back onto the road and violently rams their car off the highway, nearly killing them. It's obvious, this man is dangerous, unhinged, and now fully aware that they saw him. Any reasonable person would drive straight to the nearest police station and report what they saw. But Darry makes the fatal choice to go back. Despite Trish's protests, he insists on returning to the church to make sure of what they saw. Curiosity overrides survival instinct. He convinces himself that maybe it wasn't what it looked like. That single decision seals his fate.
Back at the abandoned church, Darry's curiosity completely takes over. He peers down into the drainage pipe and hears strange sounds echoing from the darkness below. Instead of backing away and calling the police, he decides to investigate further. Using a rope, he lowers himself down into the pipe. Inside, he makes a horrifying discovery. The walls are lined with stitched-together human bodies, forming a grotesque display. This wasn't just a random act of violence. This was something far worse. Darry panics and attempts to climb back out, but not before alerting the creature to his presence. In the original version of events, Darry doesn't simply fall in because of rats. He willingly climbs down to investigate, which makes the decision even more frustrating. His need to know the truth overrides basic survival instincts. By returning to the church instead of going straight to the authorities, Darry places himself directly in the creeper's path. From that moment on, he becomes the creeper's primary target. And the worst part? Everything that happens afterward could have been avoided with one simple decision. Keep dragging.
In Drag Me to Hell, the fatal mistake doesn't happen at the beginning. It happens at the very end. Christine Brown believes she has finally escaped a terrifying curse. After denying an elderly woman named Mrs. Canoosh a loan extension, Christine is cursed with a lamia, a demon that will drag her to hell after 3 days of torment. Desperate to survive, Christine learns that the curse can be transferred to someone else if she gives them the object that carries it, a button taken from Mrs. Canoosh during their violent confrontation. After wrestling with her conscience, Christine decides to pass the cursed button to Mrs. Canoosh's corpse, believing that giving it back to the dead woman will end the curse without harming anyone else. She places the envelope containing the button into the coffin before it is buried. Later, at the train station, Christine happily reunites with her boyfriend Clay. She's relieved. She thinks it's over. But horror movies love cruel twists. Clay casually mentions that he found an envelope in his car, the one Christine had earlier used to hold the cursed button. He returns it to her. Inside is the button. Christine suddenly realizes her mistake. She had accidentally switched envelopes. Instead of burying the cursed button, she buried an envelope containing an ordinary coin. Her failure wasn't in fighting the demon. It was in not double-checking something simple.
The realization hits Christine all at once. She didn't defeat the curse. She didn't outsmart the Lamia. She made a simple, devastating mistake. She failed to check the contents of the envelope before placing it in the coffin. In her panic and desperation, she assumed she had done everything correctly. But horror doesn't forgive assumptions. As the train approaches, the ground beneath Christine begins to crack. Shadows stretch unnaturally around her. The curse was never broken. Unlike what some people remember, Christine doesn't get dragged down randomly. The Lamia comes precisely because the cursed button was never transferred. The rules were clear from the beginning. The object must be given away to pass on the curse. Christine had the solution in her hands. All she had to do was open the envelope and confirm what was inside. Instead, that one careless oversight seals her fate. In front of Clay, who can only watch in horror, Christine is violently pulled beneath the platform and dragged straight to hell. No complicated ritual failed. No demon tricked her at the last second. It was a simple failure to double-check. And in horror movies, sometimes the smallest mistakes have the most permanent consequences.
At the end of I Am Legend, we witness what appears to be a heroic sacrifice. Dr. Robert Neville has spent years alone in a post-apocalyptic New York City, working tirelessly to find a cure for the virus that turned most of humanity into aggressive, infected beings known as Darkseekers. After capturing a female Darkseeker, Neville finally discovers a successful cure. But just as hope seems possible, a large group of Darkseekers break into his home laboratory to retrieve her. Neville, along with Anna and a young boy named Ethan, retreats into the basement lab. As the infected crash through the final layer of glass separating them, Neville realizes there's no time left. In the theatrical version of the film, he quickly draws blood containing the cure and hands it to Anna. He then places her and Ethan inside a small coal chute, a reinforced escape tunnel behind the lab, sealing them inside for safety. Facing the infected charging toward him, Neville pulls the pin on a grenade, sacrificing himself to protect the cure and ensure humanity has another chance. It's framed as noble, but was it necessary?
Here's where the debate begins. In the theatrical ending of I Am Legend, Neville stands behind a thin pane of glass as the Darkseekers slam against it. Instead of retreating into the coal chute with Anna and Ethan, he chooses to stay behind and detonate a grenade, killing himself along with the infected in the room. But if you look closely, there appears to be enough time and enough space for Neville to climb into the chute with them before sealing it. The opening is large enough to fit another person, and he is only steps away from it. His decision turns what could have been a shared escape into a solo sacrifice. However, it's important to correct a common misunderstanding. In the alternate ending of the film, Neville does not sacrifice himself at all. In that version, he realizes the Darkseekers are not mindless monsters. They are trying to rescue the captured female. He returns her to them and they leave peacefully. Neville survives and departs the city with Anna and Ethan. That alternate ending reframes the entire story and removes the need for any last-second explosion. So the questionable decision really belongs to the theatrical version. Neville chooses martyrdom when survival might have still been possible. Heroic? Yes. Necessary? That's where the horror of hindsight sets in.
In I Know What You Did Last Summer, one of the most frustrating deaths belongs to Helen Shivers. Throughout the film, Helen is chased by a mysterious killer dressed in dark rain gear and armed with a large hook. After a long and terrifying pursuit during the town's 4th of July celebration, Helen finally seems to have a real chance at survival. She sprints through alleyways and crowded streets, desperately trying to escape. The killer is close behind her, but for a moment, she manages to gain some distance. Then she sees it, a parade route filled with people, a marching band, crowds lining the street.
Noise, lights, safety in numbers. Freedom is literally just a few yards away. If she can reach the crowd, the killer can't attack her without being seen. All she has to do is keep running forward. And for a second, it looks like she's going to make it. But then comes the fatal mistake. Instead of charging straight into the crowd without hesitation, Helen makes the split-second decision to look back. She slows down. She turns her head to check where the killer is. That tiny pause is all he needs. In horror movies, momentum is survival, and Helen loses hers. The killer catches up, drags her away from the safety of the parade route, and murders her just before she can reach the crowd. It's important to correct one detail often exaggerated. Helen isn't standing completely still for a long, dramatic moment. The hesitation is brief, but in a life or death chase, even a second of lost speed can be fatal. She was seconds away from witnesses, seconds away from safety. All she had to do was keep running forward. Instead, fear made her look back. And in horror films, looking back is often the last thing you ever do.
And Saw 2, one of the most avoidable deaths, belongs to Addison Corday. Inside the nerve gas house, Addison finds a glass box mounted between two walls. Inside the box is an antidote, something desperately needed to survive the deadly toxin filling the building. On the front of the box are two circular openings, just large enough for someone to slide their hands inside and grab the syringe. But there's a warning written clearly above it. Do not put your hands in the box. Panic overrides patience. Instead of carefully examining the device, Addison rushes forward and immediately inserts both hands into the openings to grab the antidote. At first, it seems like it worked. But then she realizes something is wrong.
The moment Addison tries to pull her hands back out, she discovers the trap's true design. Hidden inside the circular openings are razor-sharp blades angled inward. They allow her hands to slide in easily, but tear into her flesh if she tries to pull them back out. She panics. Instead of stopping and thinking, she pulls harder, only making it worse. The more she struggles, the deeper the blades cut, trapping her in place. Here's the crucial detail many people overlook. The box was not impossible to open safely. On the side of the device, there was a simple lock mechanism. If she had walked around and examined it carefully, she would have seen that a key was already inserted. Turning it would have opened the box without triggering the blades. The solution was literally built into the trap. But like many victims in the Saw series, Addison reacts emotionally rather than logically. She ignores the warning, fails to inspect the device, and rushes into action. Her death wasn't caused by a lack of tools. It was caused by impatience. And in Jigsaw's world, impulsive decisions are often deadlier than the traps themselves.
In Jaws, the horrible decision isn't made by a teenager running from a killer. It's made by an authority figure. After a young woman is killed in a nighttime shark attack near Amity Island, Police Chief Martin Brody wants to close the beaches immediately. The medical examiner initially confirms it was a shark attack, but Mayor Larry Vaughn has other priorities. It's summer. The 4th of July weekend is approaching. Tourism is the town's main source of income. Closing the beaches would devastate local businesses. So instead of putting public safety first, Vaughn pressures everyone to downplay the incident. When a smaller shark is caught, he declares the problem solved, even though marine biologist Matt Hooper strongly suspects it's not the same shark responsible for the attack. Despite clear warning signs, the beaches remain open. Crowds pour into the water, and the ocean is no longer safe. The consequences of Mayor Vaughn's greed are swift and deadly. Soon after the beaches reopen, more attacks occur. Tourists and locals alike fall victim to the great white shark. Each incident reinforces what should have been obvious from the beginning. The shark is still out there, and public safety was sacrificed for profit. Here's the critical correction. Some retellings make it sound like Brody does nothing. In reality, Brody repeatedly warns the mayor, even attempting to close the beaches himself. But Vaughn overrules him at every turn, valuing tourism revenue over human life. The lesson is clear. A single leadership failure, choosing money over safety, escalates into multiple preventable deaths. Unlike many horror movie mistakes by naive teenagers or protagonists, this one comes from someone in power, and in real life, ignoring clear danger signs rarely ends well. Had the mayor made the responsible choice and closed the beaches immediately, countless lives could have been saved.
In The Purge, bad decisions happen fast, and the consequences are deadly. The central mistake occurs when Charlie, the son of a wealthy family, disarms the home security system to let a stranger inside. This happens on the night of the Purge, when all crimes, including murder, are legal for 12 hours. The man at the door claims he's being chased by other Purge participants. Charlie, driven by sympathy or overconfidence, opens the door without considering the risks. It's immediately clear that this is a huge error. In a house designed to withstand intruders during the Purge, safety should have been the priority. Allowing an unknown person inside not only jeopardizes Charlie, but endangers his entire family. This one foolish action sets off a chain reaction of events, turning a fortified home into a death trap.
After Charlie lets the stranger in, the family faces a series of increasingly dangerous situations. The first problem: the stranger is not just being chased. He is a violent intruder who exploits the opened door. Once inside, he threatens the family and forces them to act under extreme duress. The second mistake comes from the family itself. Instead of staying in the safe room, a secure, reinforced part of the house, equipped with guns and protection, they split up. Members move into exposed areas, making themselves easy targets for the Purge attackers. The simple, logical choice would have been to remain in the safe room until the danger passed. But horror movies rarely reward common sense. Every step outside the safe room increases the risk of death. By disarming security and leaving their stronghold, the family falls into a trap that could have been entirely avoided. The takeaway: in a horror scenario, hesitation, curiosity, or misplaced trust can be as deadly as the killers themselves. In Halloween Resurrection, Laurie Strode faces one of the most frustrating mistakes in the franchise. At the start of the 8th installment, Laurie finally captures Michael Myers. He is restrained, hanging upside down from a rope in the Myers house. For the first time in decades, it seems like she might end her nightmare once and for all. Laurie prepares to cut the rope, which would keep Michael incapacitated and potentially allow authorities to handle him. But instead of acting immediately, she makes a critical decision. She chooses to unmask him. Her reasoning seems understandable. After all, she wants to see if the man she has hunted for years is truly her brother. But she forgets one key fact. Even hanging upside down, Michael's hands are still free. By pausing to satisfy her curiosity, Laurie exposes herself to immediate danger.
As Laurie lifts Michael's mask, she underestimates his strength and cunning. Even while suspended, Michael's hands are free and he grabs her, pulling her into a deadly struggle. Laurie's moment of hesitation, the desire to confirm his identity, costs her precious seconds. The lesson is simple. In horror scenarios, curiosity can be deadly. Laurie could have safely cut the rope and secured Michael, but instead, her need to know the truth puts her directly in harm's way.
By prioritizing verification over survival, Laurie allows the nightmare to continue. This moment exemplifies a recurring horror trope. Even experienced characters make fatal errors when emotions override common sense.
In Scream, Tatum Riley's death is a classic example of a horror movie character making a fatal mistake under pressure. During a tense scene, Ghostface traps Tatum in the garage. She puts up a strong fight, managing to knock the killer to the ground several times. She even attempts to use her environment to her advantage, looking for anything that could serve as a weapon. But here's the critical problem. Instead of taking decisive action when she has the upper hand, she hesitates. She fails to kick Ghostface while he's down, which could have incapacitated him temporarily, or at least created enough time to escape. Her hesitation gives the killer the opportunity to regain control.
After Tatum's initial fight, she makes another critical mistake. Instead of finding a suitable weapon in the garage or continuing to fight aggressively, she decides to escape through a small pet door. The problem? The opening is clearly too small for her to fit through. This poor choice tracks her in a confined space with Ghostface. Her hesitation and reliance on an obviously impractical escape route give the killer the perfect advantage. Tatum's death illustrates a common horror movie pattern. Even when a character demonstrates resourcefulness, a single poor decision, whether hesitation, curiosity, or misjudgment, can override their efforts and lead to tragedy. In short, she had the skill to survive, but not the presence of mind to make the right decision under extreme pressure.
In Saw, Dr. Lawrence Gordon faces an impossible choice, or so it seems. Trapped in a grim, locked room with his arm chained to a pipe, Dr. Gordon realizes that the only way to escape and call for help is to reach a phone across the room. Unfortunately, the distance is too far to stretch his arm and grab it. The room contains a saw, a tool that could be used to free himself. But here's the brutal dilemma. Using it means injuring his own body. Under extreme pressure and time running out, Dr. Gordon makes a horrifying decision. He chooses to amputate his own foot in order to escape the trap. This moment is often misremembered as unavoidable, but there's a key detail. The saw itself could have been used more creatively.
After deciding to amputate his foot, Dr. Gordon endures excruciating pain, but finally frees himself from the chain. The critical point, often overlooked, is that the saw could have been used to reach the phone in another way. For example, by maneuvering the saw to extend his reach or break the chain without amputation. With careful thinking, there might have been a less drastic solution. Instead, panic and desperation lead him to choose the most extreme and gruesome option. His decision highlights a common horror theme. When trapped and pressured, characters often act impulsively rather than logically, leading to permanent consequences. Dr. Gordon survives, but only because he takes the most extreme route. A slightly different choice, patience, ingenuity, or assessment of the tools at hand could have saved him from self-mutilation.